Seniors, 3 signs you have sarcopenia and how to reverse it after 60.
Muscle is not just strength. Muscle is your metabolism's engine. If you are losing muscle after 60, you are not just getting weaker, you are losing the ability to burn fat, stabilize blood sugar, protect your bones, and stay independent. The problem is, most people don't realize muscle loss is happening until it's advanced. Today, I'm going to show you the 3 most common signs of sarcopenia, and more importantly, how modern medicine now knows how to reverse it safely after 60, often in less than 10 minutes a day.
When we talk about sarcopenia, we are not talking about a cosmetic issue, and we are not talking about just getting older. Sarcopenia is a medical condition formally recognized in geriatric medicine, defined as the progressive loss of muscle mass, muscle strength, and muscle function with age. This process does not suddenly begin at 60. In fact, research shows that muscle loss often starts quietly in the 40s, progresses slowly through the 50s, and then accelerates sharply after age 60. The reason many people do not recognize it early is because the scale often does not change. Weight may stay the same while muscle is gradually replaced by fat, particularly around the abdomen. What makes sarcopenia dangerous is that muscle is not simply tissue used for movement. Muscle is a metabolically active organ with critical roles throughout the body. First, muscle is one of the largest glucose sinks in the human body. This means it is a primary location where blood sugar is absorbed and used. As muscle mass declines, the body becomes less efficient at handling glucose, increasing the risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, even in people who eat modestly and have never had blood sugar problems before. Second, muscle plays a major role in hormonal regulation. Healthy muscle tissue helps regulate hormones involved in metabolism, inflammation, and stress. When muscle is lost, hormonal balance shifts toward conservation and fat storage rather than repair and renewal. This is one reason why fat gain becomes easier and fat loss becomes harder after muscle declines. Third, muscle acts as a protector of bones and joints. Strong muscles stabilize joints, absorb shock, and place healthy mechanical load on bones. When muscle weakens, joints become less stable, bone density declines more rapidly, and the risk of injury increases. This is why sarcopenia and osteoporosis often develop together and amplify each other. Clinically, the consequences follow a predictable pattern. As muscle is lost, metabolic rate slows. As metabolism slows, fat gain increases, often despite eating less. As fat increases and muscle decreases, insulin sensitivity worsens, energy drops, and inflammation rises. At the same time, balance deteriorates, reaction time slows. Recovery from illness or minor injury takes longer. The risk of falls, fractures, and hospitalizations increases significantly. These events are not trivial in older adults. A single fall can be the turning point that leads to loss of independence, prolonged rehabilitation, or permanent disability. This is why sarcopenia is no longer viewed as a harmless or inevitable part of aging. Modern geriatric medicine now recognizes sarcopenia as the primary driver of frailty, not a secondary effect of getting older. Frailty is not caused simply by age. It is caused by the loss of the tissues that allow the body to remain resilient. Muscle is central to that resilience. The most important point to understand is this: sarcopenia is common, serious, and often missed, but it is also modifiable. When muscle loss is identified early and addressed with the right nutritional, hormonal, and mechanical signals, the trajectory of aging can change dramatically. Strength can stabilize, function can improve, independence can be preserved. Understanding what sarcopenia really is and why it matters is the foundation for everything that follows. Sign 1. Strength loss without weight loss. One of the earliest and most overlooked signs of sarcopenia is losing strength without losing weight. This is often confusing for older adults because for most of life we're taught to use the scale as the primary indicator of health. If the number on the scale stays the same, we assume nothing significant is changing. Clinically, that assumption is often wrong after 60. Many patients tell me the same story. Their weight has remained stable for years, yet they notice subtle changes in how their body feels and performs. Arms and legs feel softer, even though clothing still fits. Tasks that once felt easy, lifting groceries, opening jars, standing up from a chair, now require more effort. Grip strength declines. There is less power when rising, pushing, or carrying. These changes are not imagined, and they are not due to laziness or lack of effort. The medical explanation is body composition shift. As sarcopenia begins, muscle tissue is gradually lost and replaced by fat tissue. Fat is less dense than muscle, so the overall body weight may remain unchanged even as strength declines. This is why the scale can be misleading. It does not distinguish between muscle and fat. It only measures total mass. From a physiological standpoint, this shift has consequences far beyond appearance. Muscle fibers are responsible for force generation, balance reactions, and joint stabilization. Fat tissue does not perform these functions. As muscle is lost, functional capacity declines even if body weight stays the same. This is also why many older adults feel frustrated when they try to diet. They may eat less, see little change on the scale, and feel weaker rather than leaner. In reality, calorie restriction without adequate protein and muscle stimulation often accelerates muscle loss, worsening the underlying problem. From a clinical perspective, this pattern, stable weight with declining strength, is one of the earliest warning signs of sarcopenia and one of the most commonly missed. Because labs may appear normal and weight is unchanged, neither patients nor clinicians always recognize what is happening beneath the surface. By the time weakness becomes obvious, muscle loss may already be significant. This is why strength changes matter more than weight changes after 60. Difficulty rising from a chair, weaker grip, reduced lifting power, and slower movement are not just inconveniences, they are early signals that muscle tissue is being lost and needs to be supported. Recognizing this sign early is critical because at this stage, sarcopenia is often highly responsive to intervention. With the right nutritional signals and appropriate resistance-based movement, muscle loss can slow, and in many cases, strength can be regained. Understanding that strength loss can occur without weight loss helps shift the focus away from the scale and toward what truly matters: function, stability, and independence.
Sign 2. Fat gain despite eating less. One of the most frustrating and confusing signs of sarcopenia is gaining fat even while eating less than you used to. This is often the moment when older adults begin to blame themselves, assuming they must be miscounting calories, snacking too much, or losing willpower. Clinically, what I hear most often is this: "I don't eat nearly as much as I used to, but my belly keeps getting bigger." This experience is extremely common after 60, and it is not a paradox. It is a predictable outcome of muscle loss. The medical explanation begins with understanding that muscle is the primary driver of resting metabolic rate. Resting metabolic rate is the number of calories your body burns simply to stay alive, breathing, maintaining body temperature, circulating blood, and supporting organ function. Muscle tissue is metabolically expensive. The more muscle you have, the more energy your body requires at rest. As sarcopenia develops and muscle mass declines, several things happen simultaneously. First, calorie needs drop. The body simply requires less energy to maintain itself. This means that the amount of food that once maintained weight now becomes excessive, even if intake has decreased compared to earlier decades. Second, fat storage increases. With less muscle available to absorb and use calories, the body becomes more likely to store excess energy as fat, particularly in the abdominal region. This is why belly fat often increases even when overall food intake is modest. Third, protein resistance reduces muscle repair. Aging muscle becomes less responsive to the protein signal that stimulates repair and growth. When protein intake is too low or poorly distributed across meals, muscle breakdown exceeds muscle rebuilding. This accelerates muscle loss, which further lowers metabolic rate, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. This is why dieting often backfires after 60. When calories are cut without addressing muscle preservation, the body adapts by conserving energy, breaking down muscle, and storing fat more efficiently. Weight may remain stable or even increase while body composition worsens. The key teaching moment here is critical. Fat gain after 60 is often a muscle problem, not a calorie problem. Simply eating less does not solve this issue. In many cases, it makes it worse. The solution is not further restriction, but restoring the muscle signals that support metabolism. Adequate protein per meal, resistance-based movement, and sufficient energy to allow repair. When muscle mass stabilizes or begins to recover, resting metabolic rate improves, calories are handled more efficiently, fat storage pressure decreases. Many patients are surprised to find that body composition improves even without aggressive calorie reduction. Understanding this shift changes the entire approach to weight management after 60. Instead of fighting your body with restriction, the focus becomes supporting muscle so metabolism can function properly again. This reframing removes blame and replaces it with clarity, and it opens the door to strategies that actually work in aging physiology.
Sign 3. Fatigue, poor balance, and slow recovery. The third major sign of sarcopenia often appears not as weakness alone, but as a combination of fatigue, instability, and slower recovery. These symptoms are frequently dismissed as just aging, but medically they are strong indicators that muscle tissue is no longer adequately supporting the body. Many older adults notice that they get tired faster than they used to, even during routine activities. Tasks such as walking short distances, standing for extended periods, or doing light household chores feel more draining. Energy does not rebound as quickly after exertion, and rest does not always feel restorative. At the same time, people may begin to feel less steady on their feet. Balance feels slightly off. Turning quickly, walking on uneven surfaces, or standing up too fast may cause hesitation. These changes are often subtle at first, but they are important signals. Another common experience is slow recovery. After a minor illness, travel, or a day of increased activity, it takes longer to feel back to normal. Muscle soreness lingers, fatigue persists. This is not simply inconvenience, it reflects reduced muscular reserve. The physiology behind these changes is well understood. Muscle plays a central role in balance reflexes. Small, stabilizing muscles respond rapidly to shifts in position, helping prevent falls. As muscle mass and neuromuscular signaling decline, these reflexes slow, making balance less reliable. Muscle is also essential for blood sugar control. It is the primary site where glucose is absorbed after meals. When muscle declines, blood sugar becomes more unstable, leading to energy swings, fatigue, and increased inflammatory signaling. These fluctuations further impair recovery and contribute to a general sense of weakness. In addition, muscle helps regulate inflammation. Healthy muscle tissue produces anti-inflammatory signals that support repair and resilience. When muscle is lost,
Inflammation tends to increase, which slows healing and prolongs recovery after stress, illness, or exertion. From a clinical risk perspective, these symptoms matter greatly. Sarcopenia is one of the strongest predictors of falls in older adults. Falls are not benign events. They are a leading cause of fractures, emergency room visits, and hospitalizations in people over 60. Beyond falls, sarcopenia strongly predicts loss of independence. Difficulty with balance, endurance, and recovery often leads to reduced activity, which accelerates further muscle loss. This downward cycle can progress quickly once it begins. In more advanced cases, sarcopenia is associated with early disability, prolonged rehabilitation after illness, and increased need for assisted living or long-term care. Importantly, these outcomes are not driven by age alone. They are driven by the loss of muscular support. The key takeaway is this: fatigue, poor balance, and slow recovery are not just signs of slowing down. They are warning signals that muscle reserves are declining and need attention. When these signs are recognized early and addressed with appropriate nutrition and resistance-based movement, muscle function can improve. Energy stabilizes, balance becomes more reliable, recovery accelerates. Recognizing this sign is not about fear. It is about intervening while function can still be preserved.
Why old advice fails after 60. One of the most important reasons sarcopenia progresses unchecked is that much of the advice older adults receive is outdated. It is advice that may have worked earlier in life, but fails to account for how aging physiology changes muscle biology. Let's address 3 of the most common myths directly. The first myth is, just walk more. Walking is excellent for cardiovascular health, joint mobility, and mental well-being. But from a medical standpoint, walking alone is not sufficient to preserve muscle mass after 60. Walking is a low-load activity. It does not provide the mechanical stimulus necessary to maintain or rebuild muscle tissue in aging bodies. In fact, excessive endurance activity without resistance can accelerate muscle loss by increasing energy expenditure without triggering muscle repair. The second myth is, eat less to lose fat. This advice is particularly harmful after 60. Chronic calorie restriction sends a powerful signal to the aging body that energy is scarce. In response, the body conserves energy by breaking down muscle, slowing metabolism, and increasing fat storage efficiency. This is why many older adults who diet aggressively feel weaker, more fatigued, and see little improvement in body composition. Eating less without supporting muscle does not lead to sustainable fat loss. It accelerates sarcopenia. The third myth is, protein harms the kidneys. For the vast majority of older adults without advanced kidney disease, this is not supported by evidence. Large reviews of clinical data show that higher protein intake within appropriate ranges is safe and often beneficial for preserving muscle, bone, and metabolic health. Unfortunately, fear around protein leads many seniors to consume far less than their muscles require, worsening anabolic resistance and muscle loss. The medical explanation underlying all of this is a process known as anabolic resistance. As we age, muscle tissue becomes less responsive to the same nutritional signals that once stimulated repair and growth. In younger adults, relatively small amounts of protein can activate muscle protein synthesis. After about age 60, that threshold increases. Small, scattered protein intakes that once worked no longer provide a strong enough signal. The muscle remains inactive, and breakdown exceeds rebuilding. This is why advice focused on minimal intake, low protein, low calories, low effort, fails in older adults. Aging muscle requires stronger, more deliberate signals, not weaker ones. From an authority standpoint, this leads to a clear and important conclusion. Muscle loss is modifiable,
but not with outdated rules. Modern geriatric medicine recognizes that sarcopenia can be slowed, stabilized, and often partially reversed when nutrition and movement are aligned with aging physiology. This requires updating old beliefs and replacing them with evidence-based strategies designed for older bodies. The problem is not that older adults are failing to follow advice. The problem is that the advice itself is no longer biologically appropriate. Understanding why old rules fail is a critical step toward adopting strategies that actually work after 60.
How muscle reversal actually works after 60. To understand how muscle can be rebuilt after 60, it is important to move away from the idea of working harder and toward a more accurate medical concept, signal restoration. Muscle loss with aging does not occur because the body has lost the ability to respond. It occurs because the signals that tell muscle to repair and grow have become too weak or too inconsistent. When those signals are restored correctly, muscle tissue can respond again, even in later decades of life. There are three primary signals that matter most. Core principle: signal restoration. Muscle responds to nutritional signals, mechanical signals, and recovery signals. All three must be present. None of them require extreme effort. 1. Protein timing, not just protein amount. One of the most important discoveries in aging muscle research is that protein timing matters as much as total protein intake. After 60, muscles require a stronger protein signal at each meal to overcome anabolic resistance in older adults. Simply meeting a daily protein target is often not enough if protein is consumed in small, scattered amounts. Clinical research consistently shows that approximately 25 to 35 grams of high-quality protein per meal is needed to overcome anabolic resistance in older adults. Meals that fall below this threshold often fail to stimulate muscle repair. Breakfast is especially critical. Many older adults consume very little protein in the morning, which creates a long period of muscle breakdown without repair. Providing adequate protein at breakfast can dramatically improve daily muscle balance. The quality of protein also matters. Leucine-rich sources such as eggs, dairy, fish, and poultry are particularly effective because leucine is a key amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis. These foods provide a clear, biologically strong signal to aging muscle. 2. The 10-minute muscle signal. Muscle needs a mechanical signal to maintain strength and size. This does not mean long workouts or heavy lifting. In fact, older muscles often respond better to short, focused, resistance-based movement than to prolonged endurance exercise. As little as 10 minutes of resistance-based activity performed consistently can send a powerful signal to muscle tissue. This can include body weight exercises, resistance bands, or light weights. The key is engaging large muscle groups, legs, hips, back, chest, and shoulders, because these muscles drive overall strength, metabolism, and balance. From a medical perspective, this type of movement tells the body that muscle tissue is still required. When paired with adequate protein intake, it creates a synergistic effect that supports muscle repair and growth. 3. Recovery and hormonal support. The third signal is often overlooked: recovery. Muscle repair occurs during rest, not during exercise. Without adequate energy and proper hormonal conditions, even the best nutrition and movement plan will fail. After 60, adequate calorie intake becomes essential. Chronic calorie restriction elevates stress hormones and suppresses anabolic hormones, pushing the body into conservation mode. This environment favors muscle breakdown, not rebuilding. Sleep timing also plays a critical role. Muscle repair hormones are released during deep sleep. Disrupted or irregular sleep patterns interfere with this process, slowing recovery and blunting muscle response. Avoiding chronic dieting is equally important.
Repeated cycles of restriction teach the body to conserve energy aggressively, making muscle preservation more difficult. Clinical data and reassurance. The most encouraging aspect of modern research is how quickly muscle responds when the right signals are restored. Clinical studies show that muscle protein synthesis improves in older adults within weeks, not years, when protein intake, resistance-based movement, and recovery are aligned. Strength gains and functional improvements often follow shortly thereafter. This does not mean dramatic transformation. It means measurable, meaningful improvement, better balance, greater strength, improved metabolism, and increased confidence in daily movement. The key message is this: muscle reversal after 60 is not about intensity. It is about precision, consistency, and respecting aging physiology. When the right signals are delivered, the aging body responds.
What reversal really means. When we talk about reversing sarcopenia after 60, it is essential to set realistic and medically accurate expectations. Reversal does not mean bodybuilding. It does not mean dramatic physical transformations, extreme workouts, or chasing the body you had decades ago. Those expectations are not only unrealistic, they are unnecessary. From a clinical standpoint, reversal means restoring function. The goal is not maximal muscle size. The goal is muscle that works, muscle that supports daily movement, stabilizes joints, protects bones, and maintains metabolic health. Even modest improvements in muscle strength and quality can have profound effects on independence and quality of life. When sarcopenia is addressed correctly, the first improvements are often subtle but meaningful. Strength increases. Standing up from a chair becomes easier. Carrying groceries feels less taxing. Grip strength improves. These changes translate directly into safer movement and reduced fall risk. Balance also improves as stabilizing muscles regain function and neuromuscular signaling becomes more responsive. This is particularly important because balance loss is one of the strongest predictors of injury in older adults. Metabolism improves as muscle mass stabilizes or increases. Muscle tissue is metabolically active, and even small gains can raise resting metabolic rate. This often leads to better blood sugar control, reduced fat storage, and improved energy utilization, sometimes without major changes in calorie intake. Many patients also notice an increase in energy. Activities that once caused fatigue become more manageable. Recovery after exertion or illness improves. This is not a stimulant effect. It is the result of improved metabolic efficiency and reduced inflammatory stress. Perhaps one of the most overlooked benefits is confidence. When the body feels stronger and more reliable, fear of movement decreases. People become more willing to stay active, socialize, and engage in daily life. This psychological shift plays a powerful role in sustaining long-term health. The key message is this: muscle can respond again at any age when biology is respected. Age does not eliminate the body's capacity to adapt. What changes is the threshold of stimulation required. When nutrition, movement, and recovery are aligned with aging physiology, muscle tissue remains responsive. Reversal in this context is not about turning back time. It is about preserving function, maintaining independence, and extending health span. Even small improvements compound over time, protecting mobility and quality of life. Understanding what reversal truly means helps replace unrealistic expectations with achievable goals and transforms fear of aging into informed action. As we close, I want to leave you with one perspective that is both medically accurate and deeply empowering. Sarcopenia is not a sentence, it is a signal. It is not a verdict that your best years are behind you, and it is not evidence that your body has failed. It is a message, one that tells us your body now needs different instructions than it did at 40.
Aging changes physiology. Muscles require stronger protein signals. Movement must be more targeted. Recovery becomes more important than intensity. When we continue to apply younger body rules to an older body, decline accelerates. Not because aging is inevitable, but because the instructions are no longer appropriate. The encouraging truth is that when those instructions are updated, the body responds. When you restore the right signals, adequate protein at each meal, resistance-based movement that tells muscles they are still needed, and sufficient recovery that allows repair to occur, muscle begins to return. Strength improves, balance stabilizes, energy becomes more consistent. And when muscle returns, independence follows. Independence is not just about living alone or driving a car. It is about confidence in your body. Confidence that you can get up from a chair without help. Confidence that you can walk without fear of falling. Confidence that illness or a minor injury will not permanently change your life. This is what preserving muscle truly protects. I want to be very clear. This process does not require extremes. It does not require punishing workouts, severe diets, or chasing unrealistic ideals. It requires respecting biology, being consistent, and choosing strategies designed for the realities of aging. That is the mission of this channel. If you are over 60 and want science-based guidance that prioritizes strength, independence, and longevity, I encourage you to subscribe. Everything we share here is focused on helping you understand your body, avoid unnecessary decline, and make informed decisions that protect your health long-term. Aging does not mean surrendering control. With the right knowledge, it becomes a process you can actively shape. Your body is still responsive, your strength still matters, and your independence is worth protecting.